Alexa, play Bloomberg.
Break of structure S&P. RSI S&P.
Order filled.
Order filled.
Order filled.
RSINQ small. RSINQ small.
Order filled.
Break of structure S&P.
Order filled.
Break of structure gold.
Stop filled. Stop filled.
Break of structure in queue. Oversold in queue.
Order filled.
RSINQ small. RSISMP.
Order filled. Order rejected. Order rejected.
break of structure in
Hello. Voilà, earthy white. Going furthest.
Order filled.
Let's see what London Open will do to us.
Welcome back to Markets Today. I'm Anna Edwards in London. Let's get to your top stories. The yuan jumps after China ramps up support for the currency and eases capital curbs. But Asia's stocks are mixed to negative. Apple and Nvidia's main chipmaker TSMC warns sales for the full year will decline more than forecast and pushes back the start of production in Arizona. Plus, Tesla price cuts drive down margins while Netflix dims forecasts. Both stocks jump in after hours trend. Yeah, both of those slump, which is why we've seen Nasdaq a little bit weaker. Let's have a look at the picture across a host of assets this morning. Here's Nasdaq futures. This is the effect of Tesla, the effect of Netflix, and certainly as the sentiment that's weighing on things this morning as we head towards the US session. And actually, things deteriorated a little bit in terms of sentiment. Things have deteriorated through the Asia session as well. We had seen gains on the Hang Seng a little bit earlier, and that was all being driven by optimism around further policy changes.
Okay, we've got the London Open.
That doesn't look so substantial, so game changing around the private sector and capital flows, and so the market goes back to where it was, and we've seen a little bit of pressure on the Hang Seng, for example. The pound, just checking in on where we are there, 129.12 after the drop of yesterday with that inflation print, of course. And this is the wheat price, up by 1.7% today. Of course, we saw substantial moves higher in wheat and in other soft commodities yesterday. Russia making it clear that they will, adding to pressure on any fleet that is in or around any of the Ukrainian ports, and saying they will be treated like vessels that could be carrying military equipment. And so that has put upward pressure on some of the soft commodities. Let's have a quick look at the futures picture for you. And European equity market futures have looked a little bit softer this morning. That continues to be the case. DAX futures down 0.4%, CAC futures down by 0.3%, and FTSE futures down by 0.1% or so. So markets open across European equities. Let's have a look at where we start today's trade. Looking for a little bit of softness to come through. And yesterday in the United States, we saw actually the banking sector wobbling with those Goldman Sachs numbers. But in the end, the Goldman Sachs share price ended positively. So that's the story around banking of yesterday. We also saw tech overnight being really
Also, we are so bearish today. I will just go break even straight away. As I am on profit.
With what's going on at Tesla, we'll certainly get into that conversation shortly. So how does that all add up to the start of European trade? We also take on board what we heard from TSMC. Not necessarily much of a European expression of that story.
The move
But
up
certainly
is
a
not
fascinating
confirmed
one when
yet.
it comes to AI, to Chinese growth, to expansion of
Quite
capacity
early
and
entry.
of course, around the globe, away from Taiwan into the United States. Tight labour market. That story has everything this morning. So we'll focus on that as well. But the French market then opening weaker, down by 0.4%. The FTSE up 0.1%, in fact, and going its own way a little bit. We see the pound is down another 0.2%. A mixed bag really on currencies, a little bit of softness in the dollar overall and some strength in the euro. In terms of the bond market picture, we see buying of bonds, we see some of those
Better
yields
it's always to
coming down.
enter
That really
later
continuation
when
of
the
the
move
story
up will be
yesterday around
confirmed.
UK
So
inflation.
far we are
We see a mixed picture really when it comes
very
to
far
the
away
euro
from
economy.
200 moving average,
We mentioned the wheat prices, and certainly that has been a feature of the
everything
market
is
over the
red.
last 24 hours or so. Let's have a look at sectors there, see if this gives us any kind of clear picture as to the
36
dominant themes right
it's
now. We see
okay,
the stocks,
below us
the
it's
energy and the
green.
basic resource stocks doing a little better this morning.
So
Perhaps
look
that
like
plays
they
their
take
strongly
my
for London. So
stop
the
loss.
FTSE 100 up by 0.2% the result. So you can see commodities is a bit of a theme this morning, and we are seeing some resilience in markets where that that is a dominant sector, or at least a large part of the sector.
I'm
I can see
doing
retail pretty
yeah,
unchanged.
that's
Banks
number
up by
3.
0.3%, utilities up by 0.5%. Elsewhere, we have a fairly mixed bag of earnings
Stop field.
coming through. We've got financial services fairly flat this morning. Travel and leisure actually down by 0.4%. Interesting to see what EasyJet has been saying this morning in terms of the numbers they reported, but crucially in terms of what they say about the summer and how the summer is going to perform. We've seen incredible demand return to that sector, of course. We had a headline across the Bloomberg terminal a few minutes ago that's from the CEO of EasyJet saying he's not seeing the heat, the extreme heat we're seeing in Spain and Italy having an impact on traffic flow, on tourism demand for those locations at this point. You have to wonder whether that continues in years ahead. But at the moment, he is saying that business is pretty resilient. Let's have a look at where we are on the market story then. Sophia Horter-Acosta joins us from our Markets Today blog. And Sophia, let's linger on the China theme because we've got some earnings happening here in Europe, of course, and that's going to be important. But in terms of that China dynamic, it still lingers in the background as far as a stimulus for or a sentiment driver for the markets. What did you take away from the start of that Chinese story, essentially, as the lights go out for me here in London?
Hi, Anna. I mean, it is a really important story actually for Europe. Let's not forget that European markets were the favorite way for traders to kind of play the China story when we did have growth at the start of the year, when there was optimism about the China recovery story. So when we do have, that falling short, pessimism around whether Beijing's policies to support growth and to boost private sector sentiment, concerns of that and really doubts of that, we will see weakness in European equities. I mean, that has been the big play this year because there's so much concern about having direct Chinese equity exposure among international funds. So, the China story is actually, I think, playing more strongly here in Europe than it was when I was covering Hong Kong stocks a few weeks ago. I think that's
Order filled.
the story in terms of macro and what can
The one
really derail the
along
fund
with
sentiment
oil.
that we're having since the US CPI print and really kind of reinforced by yesterday's UK CPI print. The narrative in the markets right now, the dominant narrative, is that inflation is peaking and we are getting kind of more focus on growth and whether, what we'll see in kind of the economic outlook going forward in China could really change the story there. Anna.
Right, and the disinflation, as you point us towards the next part of that conversation, then the disinflation narrative builds, and we're actually seeing on the bond market story a continuation of yesterday's story with those yields coming down, certainly in developed markets. That's the story. As we focus in on maybe a lower peak for interest rates, is that going to linger as a driving theme, do we think, for investors? It seems to be something that, coupled with the soft landing narrative, has really captured the imagination.
Exactly. I think that's exactly the right way to put it, capture the imagination. And the market is almost looking for validation of that narrative. And I think, yesterday's UK CPI print, people were telling me that CPI inflation here is still very high. It's still near 8%. Let's not kind of pop the champagne a bit too early. I think the BOE decision, the next BOE decision will be very important for that narrative. And let's see whether there's kind of an upward risk revision to inflation. There's still a lot more that needs to be digested on that front. But right now, the market seems to have decided that the disinflation narrative has come to Europe, started in the US, come to Europe, and this is risk on. This is kind of the shift that we're seeing in markets now. Risk on and buy fixed income. We're seeing jumping yields again today.
Sophia, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Sophia Horter-Acosta from the Markets Today blog, helping us understand the early part of the trading day here in Europe. Remember, you can keep across all the stories that the blog team is covering. Go to the Bloomberg UK website. You'll find a link to the Markets Today blog, or you can type TLID go onto the Bloomberg terminal. Let's get back to the corporate earnings stories. And Volvo Cars says it expects the profitability of its electric vehicles to improve in the coming months because of lower raw material costs and higher prices for its latest models. This comes after the automaker's second quarter operating income missed estimates due to high lithium costs. Joining us now, Jim Rowan, the CEO of Volvo Cars. Jim, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start right there then with your expectations around profitability for EVs. Do you expect the pressure of higher lithium costs, do you expect that to fade? Is that going to be the driver? Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, nice for joining the show. Yeah, so what we're seeing right now, we had a really strong quarter when you look at year over year. Profitability actually increased from 4.6 billion to 6.4 billion over that period. We did signal that we saw the BEV margins were lower, than they had been previously. But this was expected because of the high lithium costs. Those lithium prices came in last year. They stayed doggedly high. We took orders in at those high prices, and therefore that was the effect on the margins. Now we see those lithium prices coming back down. Our price increases are now in the market, and so we should see those BEV margins increase, those battery electric vehicle products increase
So far,
in the fourth
look
quarter
like
and then
that.
through the course of
Low,
2024 when
can
we
test
introduce
it
new
again.
models, which by their design have higher gross margins as well.
Right, okay, so that is helping. You're also saying today that you see your share of the fully electric car sales marking above 2022 levels. What's driving that, Jim, and is that sustainable given everybody else's competing products which come thick and fast in this sector?
Yeah, we were very pleased actually with the growth in full electric vehicles. So it's got up by 178% full electric vehicle sales year over year. Driven really by, I think, well, first of all, we have the XC40 and the C40. So we only have two models in the market which are fully electric at this point in time.
Order filled.
EX30, which is a smaller SUV, that will be in production at the end of this year. In fact, customers will be sitting behind the wheel of that car in the fourth quarter. And then we also released the EX90, which is a flagship SUV. So we're going to be bringing more electric vehicles into the market over the next few months, and that I think will help us take even more market share. So we're bullish for the future that we'll continue to see that growth. Next year,
Much was in my first entry.
because of the EX30 will be a high volume SUV for us, and that should take us to the next level of electrification journey.
Can I ask you about supply chain issues, Jim? We heard from Stellantis just earlier this week. They say there's a severe risk of a chip shortage comeback due to a surge in demand. Are you seeing anything similar to that?
No, we don't see that right now. So last year we saw some semiconductor issues and some we had to play in the spot market to get those semiconductors, which of course came at a cost. We also had lockdowns caused by COVID last year as well.
RTY, it's really
What we've done in the intervening
mega
months is that we've really
whatever they
focused on
lost on a
the supply
session
chain. We've got
from
supply chain
Frankfurt.
analytics tools to
They
help us
make
really
it up
much better understand
quite
supply chain
strange.
dynamics, and at the same time we've developed
Thank
linkages
you, it's still
directly
here.
with those
I will be
semiconductor
chasing for stop
manufacturers.
loss.
So that means we now have direct link to those semiconductor manufacturers, which means we get much more visibility and we can build those relationships. So we don't see that dynamic as something which would be affecting Volvo Cars in the second half of this year.
Can I ask you about pricing? We've seen very, notably Tesla bringing down prices of some of its vehicles to shift inventory there. We've seen Ford cut the prices of its EVs just recently. Are you sticking to your pricing strategy?
Yes, we are. I mean, we've maintained price discipline, and we keep a very, very close eye on the market. And with rising inflation, with rising, energy costs, and to some extent we're seeing some reduced consumer sentiment in other parts of the industry. We're in the premium sector, and therefore I think maybe we're a little bit more protected by that than the mass market sector is. But at this point in time, demand for our products has stayed extremely robust, and therefore we don't see the need to cut pricing.
Do you think that the EU is going to achieve its objective to have no combustion engines by the date that it's set? None of them sold, after 2035. Do you think we're going to get to that? Will that remain the goal, and will we get there?
I sincerely hope so. As you probably know, our actual ambition is that we will be a fully electric car company by 2030. And in Europe, it's moved incredibly fast in that direction for us as a company. Other parts of the world, I think, will move a little bit slower, but by 2030, our entire fleet will be electric cars globally. I think
You can
Europe
see
will
you
be
can
will
go
be ahead of
62,
2035.
64 is
I
my
really
first
hope
TP.
that
I'm
the
not
European
sure
Union, because that's 5 years after we'd like to be there.
how
Some
that
have been
can go
pushing, some
there.
in Europe have been pushing for counting e-fuels, I think they're called, as something more sustainable than we might have done in the past, and including that in the 2035 targets. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's a distraction, quite honestly. I mean, I think the e-fuels, again, people, you put in a charge infrastructure, people are building out that charge infrastructure for electrification at this point in time. That's the direction of the future. If you look at an internal combustion engine, it runs runs at roughly 30
Nice,
to 35%
tree coming
efficient.
very
We've
well.
got an
Same
electrical
like
propulsion
oil.
system that runs at over 90% efficient.
Plus struggle with
So I think we're going
NQ.
to push through and we're going to move towards electrification as quickly as possible. The other thing with with the e-fuels, it becomes confusing for the consumer as well. Where can they actually buy those e-fuels? What petrol stations or garages do they go to? Is it going to be in every garage? Will that be universal across the whole of Europe? Whereas charge infrastructure will be universal, and I think it's much more simple for the consumer to understand. I also think it's much better for the environment.
Jim, thanks so much. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to get your perspective. Jim Rowan, the CEO of Volvo Cars. Coming up on the programme, we'll look at some of the stocks that have been on the move this morning. There were plenty to choose from. Joe Easton was taking us through the story at HelloFresh after the company reported its second quarter earnings results. We'll get more on some of those intraday moves just coming up on this programme. Plus, be aware, fans are arriving at the Stadium Australia in Sydney for Australia versus Ireland. That starts at 11 a.m. UK time. We already have one game that's kicked off, I understand, over in New Zealand. But these are fans gathering for the second game of the Women's World Cup as it gets underway in New Zealand and Australia. This is Ringo.
That don't look good for the NQ. We're building lots of orders here. POC is quite high. So I was wondering if there are bearish orders to take the price lower. All the bulls they step in here the same way which they done at Sydney.
Bloomberg breaks the numbers first. We have Bank America, we have Charles Schwab.
Tesla, Netflix, you name it, heading in the right direction.
A record quarter of revenue.
With exclusive expert analysis.
What do they have to deliver to justify the rally?
Can we have continuation of that?
It's really important to draw here.
Massive divide between diamond and Trace. Bloomberg television and radio. The fastest numbers and analysis you trust.
Welcome back. This is Markets Today. 8:16 in London, 16 minutes into our European trading session, and things look pretty mixed, actually. Well, negative, apart from London, goes a little higher, up by 0.25%. Let's get a check on the individual stocks on the move. Joe Easton joins us with an update. Joe.
These are the movers I've got my eye on at the moment, Anna. We're starting with EasyJet. Bit of a letdown in terms of the share price movement, down around 0.3%. Some higher costs, also concerned around those strikes over at Gatwick Airport. weighing on the CEO commentary for that one today. Meanwhile, IG Group, the big online trading company, they've seen some resilient client numbers despite concerns that people will start
Got
cutting
reject
back
the
on online trading due to the
top of
cost
the
of
chip
living crisis.
box.
Meanwhile, HelloFresh getting hit. We saw the chart earlier explaining the pandemic impact continuing to
Can
play.
got
That's
it
what
all
we're seeing
of
in
the
terms
chip
of a big
box? This
single-digit
is the
drop
question.
in terms of their client numbers over at HelloFresh. Volvo Cars, the CEO was talking up the prospects for electric vehicles, but the net income is missing expectations, and that one is dropping pretty sharply in Stockholm, down 5%.
That's an interesting one. And I know you've got some further movers for us, Joe. And I'm going
Can
to
you
slightly
try to
front
play a
run your
breakout?
conclusions by suggesting we're buying cake but not household appliances.
We are indeed. So the cake market is where all the action is today in terms of M&A. Cake Box getting a takeover offer bid from the Cheesecake Shop, according to Sky News. One report I didn't expect to see this morning, but as you say, the white goods market, Electrolux, that's the big drop of the worst performing stock on the stock 600, down around 9%. They've reported a big slump in sales and also will potentially have to sell some assets in order to build up their capital position, according to the company. Now, Publicis over in France, the advertising company, reporting some strong sales, and quite surprising given that we had a warning from Omnicom over in the US just a few days ago. All of those stocks dropped because of that. Perhaps investors were awaiting some weakness there. ST Micro, I bought up because of that TSMC report. That's having a bit of a read across weighing the chip makers. Finally, just a quick look at some of the analyst broker moves today. Morgan Stanley has got a notice out on my favourite sector, the alcohol sector. They are upgrading AB InBev. They say that beer companies will see a decline in commodities costs, while they downgrade Pernod Ricard over in the spirit space. That one has rallied a lot recently, so they're taking profits there. Meanwhile, K&S in chemicals, they've got an upgrade at SocGen. A little bit surprising given the weakness in the chemical space. And Naturgy over in Spain, getting an upgrade from Exane. Not a single analyst has a buy rating on this stock, but Exane upgrading to hold, and that one rising over in Madrid.
Okay, Joe Easton is all about the Pernod. I'm all about the cheesecake. Thanks very much for our equities team with an update on some of those movers. Let's keep an eye on the diary then, things that we're watching out for later today. At midday, we will get the latest interest rate decision from the Turkish Central Bank, which economists expect to continue its aggressive tightening campaign with a 350 basis point hike. 350 basis points. Then at
So
1:30
far we're
p.m. we'll
failing
get
to make
this
a new
week's
high.
initial jobless claims data out of the United States. It is, of course, Thursday. Before the US market opens, Blackstone will report earnings, capping off a big week in terms of financial services businesses reporting stateside. Later at 3 p.m, we will receive July consumer confidence data from the Euro area. And, of course, the Women's World Cup has now kicked off. The first match between New Zealand and Norway is currently underway. Started around 19
Yeah,
minutes ago.
POC came down all of the way here.
On course to be the most watched Women's World Cup with more than 1.3 million tickets bought in advance. More on that coming up later in the programme. And we've written quite a lot of interesting stories on the pay gap and
Definitely
the push
that
for more
don't look
broadcasting
too
on this
good
particular
for
tournament.
us.
And the link between the two, of course. We will return to that a little bit later. Coming up also on the programme, Tesla drops in late
How much
trading after
series is
lower car
400
prices
bucks
squeeze
or
margins
not
at Elon
really?
Musk's company. We will bring you the details next. This is Greenback.
Or is it just safer to close it and re-enter later? It was 20, now it's 120. Always that's the difficult decision. They try to break out down. doing? It's about to cross with 200. And can we do that? Okay. Plus is 10, low 36. Nicely oversold with another leg to go lower.
This is Markets Today, 23 minutes into our European trading day, and the picture for European stocks will look fairly flat, fairly mixed, down 0.1% on European stocks overall.
Quite big
So
rejection.
little thanks to basic resources. Now, Tesla shares slumped in late trade after profitability shrank in the second quarter, and the car maker warned hits to margins are likely to keep coming. Elon Musk said the company will probably keep lowering the prices of its electric vehicles if interest rates continue to rise. Months of markdowns have already taken a toll on Tesla's gross margin, which fell to a 3-year low. Let's turn to other earnings stories. Netflix shares have slumped as much as 8% in after-hours trading following projected third-quarter revenue that fell short of expectations. The earnings suggested a crackdown on password sharing and the new advertising tier aren't yet delivering the growth analysts anticipated. Here with more details, Bloomberg's Olivia Solon, who can take us through some of the conclusions from this earnings story. So talk us through the earnings then from Netflix here, Olivia.
So, as you said, revenue growth was slightly lower than analysts expected, but I think on the other side, their subscribers increased enormously. They gained, I think, 6 million subscribers in this last quarter. Analysts had predicted maybe 2 million, and this is down to this kind of quite aggressive crackdown on password sharing. So now it's rolled out this detection technology that picks up when someone's using someone else's account in another household, and then they're trying to push the original subscriber to either pay a small additional fee to allow that person to continue using their account or to get the other household to pay. And on top of that, they've also introduced this much cheaper ad-supported
Stop field.
which seems to be showing early signs of success. But
That
the
cost
key
me
message
400, so I'm not touching it
hold
now.
on, this is a new, these are new initiatives. The impact's going to be felt further down the line.
Right, yes, so it's a sort of timing issue, is it? Because both of those stories sound positive in terms of the bottom line with Netflix, but what, they're just not delivering in the short term?
Well, you've got to remember that shares are up 60% this year so far. So, yeah, that took a hit yesterday in late trading, but they seem to have recovered slightly overnight. So, yeah, they just say wait and see. Q2 was the first quarter in which the US had this password crackdown. Its biggest market. So, yeah, they said that, wait and see.
That's working quite well then, is it? The password crackdown?
It looks like it, despite some skepticism initially.
Yeah, because they tested it in other geographies first.
I think Portugal and Canada and various other places, they started in February, and then it took until late May to launch in the US.
Okay, interesting. Olivia, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Bloomberg's Olivia Solon with the latest on the Netflix story. I can tell you that NASDAQ futures are down by 0.7%, and that has a lot to do with some of those after-hours news stories that we were talking about, sort of taking you through the Tesla story, just talking with Olivia there about the Netflix story, and all of that having a negative impact on the picture for NASDAQ futures. On the GMM there, you can see quite a mixed picture really for global stocks right now. The stock 600 down 0.1%. The FTSE 100 up by 0.4%. In the FX markets, we've seen the Australian dollar catching a boost, maybe from some of those policy changes in China, maybe to do. We've seen a lot of movement in the Chinese currency as well. Some of that optimism around Chinese policy change, it seemed pretty short-lived. The market thought about it for a while and decided it wasn't so enthusiastic for that Hong Kong stocks. And certainly Hang Seng down by 0.2%. by the close. Commodities really in focus after we've seen quite a lot of news flow surrounding wheat and the war, of course, in Ukraine. More on that shortly. We'll also talk about FX markets. The pound took a tumble after UK inflation came in cooler than expected during yesterday's session. We'll get more on the FX trades. That's coming up. This is Bloomberg.
And that was my another entry. Is you looking something else?
Order filled.
I won't be interested in 10 points on this because this is the trade where I wanna add to it later.
Antonina, here is your
Alexa, stop.
reminder from Lukash.
Yes, it's still quite much higher than NQ. RTY get all of the gains. What was dropping so much?
This is Markets Today, 30 minutes into your European trading day.
Alexa, play Bloomberg.
Launching Bloomberg Europe.
SMC equipment suppliers slump at the open as Apple and Nvidia's main chipmaker warns sales for the full year will decline more than forecast and pushes back the start of production in Arizona. Plus, Tesla
Okay,
prices
3060 didn't follow.
price cuts drive down margins while Netflix dims forecast. Both stocks slump in after hours trade. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Let's have a quick check on where we are in the markets. As we said just before the break, things are fairly flat, really, across the European session. Stock 600 down by 0.10%. The DAX is a little bit weaker, the FTSE a little bit stronger, and some of that has to do with the sector breakdowns of the two, and the fact that we have energy and basic resource stocks, of course, listed in London, plays to its favour on a day when those sectors are doing not too badly. In fact, basic resources, the best performing sector this morning, up by 1.1%. We also have insurance, utilities doing pretty well, fairly mixed bag actually, around 2/3 of sectors moving higher, around a third to the downside. Technology, the worst performing sector. No surprise, given the weakness in that TSMC forecast and all of the news flow surrounding TSMC. That seems to be weighing on some of the businesses that are attached, as we said in our headlines, to TSMC. Let's get a check on some of the individual stocks that are on the list.
YN just breaking the high of the Sydney.
Exactly, so we take a look at the
RTY is almost there. Yes as well. Oh yes, no sorry, yes it's about to break the high of the Frankfurt. And just the MQs.
Slump in client users following the ending of the pandemic, obviously, which was the big decline on those sales there. ASMI, you mentioned there in the build-up with TSMC, that warning really hitting a number of chip makers and chip machinery companies. That's one of the worst performing tech stocks today, down 5%. We mentioned Volvo cars earlier, a lot of the focus on EVs, electric vehicles, how that's progressing. The CEO was very bullish on that, but the net income is not what analysts expected, and they are thinking that could continue decline throughout the market this year as well. We'll also take a look at some of the gainers today as well. The most interesting one for me is Hikma. This is in London, up 8%. It's a generic pharmaceutical company. Now there's a plant over in the US run by Pfizer, which has been taken out by a tornado, according to reports overnight. And Hikma actually makes some products that might actually come in and fill in some of those supply gaps, according to analysts today. And that's rising around 9% in London. Meanwhile, Publicis mentioned earlier, that one getting a boost. Strong sales, there is concern around advertising slowing down as the economy does weaken. We saw that from Omnicom over in the US just a few days ago, but Publicis not seeing signs of that, very upbeat on their outlook. Meanwhile, in chemicals, K&S in Germany, they've got an upgrade at SocGen, rising around 4% for that one. Not many analysts bullish on the chemical space at the moment, given the profit warnings we've seen there, but that one's doing pretty well. Finally, IG Group, the big retail trading company, lots of adverts for this online, and it is seeing an increase actually in some of their active user numbers. That's expected to decline, but they are not reporting that. A bit of a contrarian view there from them, saying that they do think people will continue to trade and invest during the cost of living crisis. So IG rising in London.
Okay, thanks very much, Joe Easton, with a look at the losers and gainers then on these markets this morning. Thanks to Joe Easton for that. Let's have a quick recap of the adventure that has been FX markets over the last couple of weeks or so. And certainly the CPI data out of the United States stands out last week. Well, potentially a game changer. It certainly had an impact on the day and continues to have an impact on all the notes I receive in my inbox about dollar weakness. So a lot of people talking about how much weaker the dollar gets from here as a result of the victory to some degree around inflation. There's a UK expression of this, of course. We saw the inflation data out yesterday from the UK, came in lower than had been expected. That weighed on the pound. But how do those two trends fit together? That's just part of what the FX market is dealing with right now. Let's get to Sam Teague, head of global FX strategy at JP Morgan Private Bank. And Sam, let's start with your sort of big picture, global view around the dollar. Are you in that camp that suggests that this was quite a game changer last week?
200. Let me check this. Okay.
We are in that camp. I do think that the US CPI print was
Try to break through the RSI. Let's see if we can. That would be amazing.
Core services ex shelter on a 3-month annualized basis, it's running below 2%. So it does seem like the Fed has gotten the majority of the inflation problem under control, let's say. But we try to separate between, well, what are the criteria for a pause and what's the criteria for a cut? Right? Criteria for a pause, we think we're just about there, and that should remove a lot of that interest rate support from the dollar that it's been getting. Cuts, whole different story. Fed needs to see weaker labor markets, it needs to see initial jobless things ticking higher. But we do think that this should allow for the next leg of dollar weakness that we should get for the second half of the year.
Okay, we get initial jobless claims today, don't we? Of course, it'll be Thursday. How long a pause then? I suppose that's crucial to the dollar view as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it will depend on what we see in the labor market. I think they're prepared to kind of sit at these levels. Maybe there's 1 or 2 more hikes. We do think there's a hike coming at least next week. But they can sit there for
RTY is flying.
It will really come down to when do
So
the start to feel confident that there's
they break the Sydney high.
The main thing for us, though, is the data that we've gotten over the last few months suggests that the pain in the labor market that they need to engineer to feel comfortable that they've gotten the inflation issue under control is less. And that's a good thing, right? But that tends to be good for risk sentiment.
Yes, to the high of the London. No, not
Do you
yet.
think that the Fed should be more worried about overtightening or undertightening? We had an interesting conversation last hour about this with one of our guests, and I just wanted to get your perspective on that.
Cash to.
Yeah. So look, I used to work in the Treasury, and I'll give you a bias here. The Fed knows that it is very easy to lose inflation fighting credibility.
Okay, oil start to go nice and up. That's really good.
But I agree with him. The risks of doing too much are lower than the risks of doing too little.
So, yeah, and to sort of maybe overtighten.
Going lower.
Okay, and so if you're looking at the FX markets and you are expecting the dollar to go weaker, then against what? What do you trade it against?
Yeah, our kind of core conviction has been this is a narrow dollar weaker environment. We're still looking at slowing below trend growth, risk sentiment. We think could be a little better in the second half of the year, but it's going to be volatile. That type of environment, or do you want to be short dollars against what we call the alternative reserve currencies, euro, Swiss franc,
RTY. I didn't trade it. It was really nice. Actually, perfect trade.
between the U.S. and other economies converging. That's really where we want to focus that and where we will continue to.
And we've seen a lot of action from the PBOC in recent days, really trying to protect their currency. How does that rub up against a weaker dollar from
Yeah. So the RMB, these measures that we see being taken are nuanced stabilizing measures rather than something
So
that's
like
going to
$300 on RTY.
China's facing a structural balance of payments. There's not a lot of portfolio inflows happening. And of course, being long the RMB is very negative carry. Still, that interest rate differential between RMB and other Western economies is still very, very wide. But if there's stability, that's a good thing, right? And that will allow other currencies that are very heavily tied to the RMB, Australian dollar is one of them, to maybe get a little bit of a break here and also participate in some of that dollar weaker trend.
So the dollar weakness trend, thinking about how that goes global, how does that rub up against the BOJ dynamic right now? Because we're waiting to hear from the BOJ. There has been some expectation, I mean, the sort of background expectation all the time that the BOJ will shift policy. It doesn't happen. There always seems to be to some degree people's expectations. So Sam, how does that play out with the weak dollar?
So dollar yen, incredibly
Oh,
difficult to
good
call.
buy on Q.
Very easy to monitor because it's just interest rate differentials. Our view over the next 12 to 24 months, let's just even put the BOJ aside, is that global yields, as global inflation comes down, as global growth slows, peak and start to converge towards those in Japan. And that should be yet supportive over the medium term. Now, when to put that trade on with such negative carry that being long the yen has is very difficult to trade. But over the medium term, we do feel quite confident that dollar yen and really anything against the yen should
And on the yen becomes really interesting, doesn't it? Because you might have a change in direction from the central bank, but interest rate differentials may still exist and be wide.
Exactly. I mean, if we, like, 12 to 24 months is an easy thing to call that dollar yen, let's say, should go down. When to really put that trade on, that probably is maybe more of a 2024 story than a second half of 2023 story.
And when I was asking about how you trade with dollar, you mentioned the euro and those other sort of currencies that you call them second-tier alternative reserve currencies. So where's the euro?
And rejects.
Yeah, so we've been long held kind of euro bulls. I hate to call it a bullish stance, but we think that euro dollar should go to 115. Top end of that range is probably 117. That's easy to say now, but we were saying that when euro dollar was down at 105.
Right. Why do you not like the word bull? Just because you're at 111, it's not that bullish.
Exactly. It's not that bullish. And also, when you say euro bull, it makes you think like you'll always be euro bullish.
Right.
But we take a cyclical view of this. If we get up towards the top end of those ranges, maybe we'll become a bit more balanced and think about the other.
Okay, potato changes. Sam, thanks very much for joining us. Sam Team, Head of Global FX Strategy at JP Morgan Private Bank. Now, for something different, the Women's Football World Cup has kicked off today with the first match between New Zealand and Norway underway. It is currently, drumroll, 0-0, but it is playing to sold-out stadiums, this World Cup, and a TV audience in the billions is expected for the tournament. It's being hosted by Australia and New Zealand. Bloomberg's Paul Allen reports.
Final touches are being applied to this fan zone in Sydney's Darling Harbour for the Women's Football World Cup. The month-long event is expected to deliver a welcome boost to tourism after some tough years during the pandemic.
So why not come and take it in?
You shouldn't underestimate the power of football globally, and there is just a whole legion of fans out there, and those fans also are high-yielding travellers often, so it's a real opportunity for Australia, not just for the tourism industry, but for the overall Australian economy.
On the pitch, the powerhouse US team is widely picked to win a third straight title, their fifth overall. Australia will be looking to go as deep as possible into its home tournament after defeating world number 5 France in their final warm-up match.
Of course, most fans won't be either in a stadium or a fan zone like this.
Oil reject traders for hour. Gold tested very cheap area.
Popularity of the women's game, football's world governing body is unhappy with some of the lowball offers it's been given for broadcast rights.
A blackout of the tournament was narrowly avoided in Europe after a deal was reached at the last minute. The terms of that deal remain secret, but it's understood bids have been just a fraction of what was paid for the rights to last year's men's edition in Qatar. The revenue shortfall isn't helping the desire to achieve prize money parity in the men's and women's World Cups. A total of $440 million prize money was on offer at last year's men's tournament. At this year's women's tournament, the prize pool is $110 million. Australia's footballers are among those calling out the disparity.
It will still only offer women 1/4 as much prize money as men for the same achievement.
The FIFA Museum in the Fan Zone is dedicated to the great moments in past Women's World Cups. 20 years ago, there was no prize money at all. But achieving prize money parity will mean FIFA getting substantially more for broadcasting rights in 2027. Paul Allen, Bloomberg, Sydney.
A really interesting report there then as the Women's World Cup gets underway in Australia and New Zealand. Coming up on the programme, we'll get some detailed reporting on what's going on in the soft commodities market. Wheat has its biggest daily surge in a decade as Russia threatens ships sailing to Ukrainian ports. We'll bring you the latest next. This is Sweden. This is markets today, 45 minutes into our European trading session, and European stocks flat to positive. positive this morning. Let's talk about soft commodities. Wheat had its biggest daily surge in a decade yesterday as Moscow threatens ships sailing to Ukrainian ports. This comes after Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea grain deal. Joining us now for more is Bloomberg's Kira Wright, who's in Sydney tracking this soft commodities story. So, Kira, what are the details around Russia's threat to cargo ships?
Yeah, thank you for having me here today. So I guess Russia has resumed blocking ships into some of Ukraine's biggest export destinations, so some of its biggest key ports. The Russian Defense Ministry actually issued a warning saying that they were going
Can
to
have a
cut away
continuation of
ships
that
that might
long.
be into Ukrainian ports to be potentially carrying military cargo. So that one comes into effect as of today, so Thursday. Now, Ukrainian officials have basically said that this is just Russia's attempt to try and bring food into their ongoing military conflicts.
Another
Meanwhile, the
bicycle.
US is saying that it's just an excuse to be able to launch attacks on some of the civilian ships going through the Black Sea and then blame it on Ukraine.
Okay, and what impact is this surge in wheat prices having elsewhere? And to put it in context, I mean, the biggest surge in a decade, which is incredible when you think about the start of the war, and this being bigger than that.
Yeah, that's right. I guess we're still in movement price futures for wheat rise about 9% yesterday. We saw those gains extend today. And it's a very good question in terms of the impact. One I think a lot of traders, but also consumers kind of have on their mind. Obviously, wheat is a very big part of a lot of people's diets, and it's probably premature at this point to kind of comment on whether or not it's going to have any lasting prices on food inflation. But what I can say is that a lot of products made out of wheat, so your cereal and your flour, they did kind of have these prices continue to climb even when the prices of wheat were significantly lower than what we've seen these last 2 days. So we certainly could see kind of prices rise again.
And Kieran, what does the collapse of the Black Sea grain deal mean in the longer term? Clearly, this is how it's playing out in a very real sense on the water in Ukrainian ports, and we see the geopolitical threats that exist as a result. But what does this mean longer term?
Yeah, look, I mean, it definitely jeopardizes a very key trading kind of route for Ukraine, which is significant because Ukraine is one of the biggest exporters of grain and also vegetable oils in the world. Now, what we're going to probably see is that Ukrainian grain production is going to instead be pushed to a lot of its river ports plus rail and road, and for transport
Next
through the
question,
EU
can we
border.
stay above
For
the
Ukrainian
200?
exporters, though, I think that what we're going to see here, the biggest challenge being is increased prices, because obviously the further that the grain travels, the higher the price is for those exporters.
Okay, Kira, thanks very much for the update. Bloomberg's Kira Wright joining us with the latest on wheat prices and the broader knock-on impacts to other soft commodities. Coming up, we'll get back to corporate earnings, and Goldman Sachs profit plunged as the Wall Street giant notched up one of its weakest quarters under the CEO David Solomon. We'll get more on the US bank earnings reporting season next. This is Bloomberg.
So we're looking for a bearish day if we cannot stay above 200. Strangely, RTYYM, yes, are bullish.
commodities markets today, 8.52 in London, 9.52 in Paris and Berlin, and we see a flat picture really for European stocks. London outperforms today, but the CAC 40 in Paris also up a little, up by 0.2%. Let's delve into the bank earnings. Goldman Sachs profits plunged as the Wall Street giant notched up one of its weakest quarters under the CEO David Solomon. Shares initially fell before making gains as Solomon moved to strike a more hopeful tone for the months ahead.
We're making tough decisions that are driving the strategic evolution of the firm. Given both these factors, it should come as no surprise that we're going through a period of lower results. I remain fully confident that we will deliver our through-the-cycle targets of mid-teens returns and create significant value for shareholders.
For more, I'm joined by Bloomberg Markets reporter Valerie Teitel, who's been looking at the bank's story. Valerie, good morning. So take us through the Goldman results. What stood out to you?
Well, first off, their second quarter profit plunged 58%, and the return on equity slid it to 4%. Anna, that's the worst now among the major U.S. banks. And they were the only U.S. banks out of the major six to be a miss on earnings per share. This is even despite Goldman being out in the last few weeks, really trying to downplay this earnings season for them. Going into this earnings season, even analysts slashed their estimates for EPS by almost half. So still a miss on EPS, even though they did downplay that. A lot of this is a part of their continuing strive to restructure their balance sheet to get less capital intensive and to move to more alternative asset management models, fee-based models, and really exit those non-core businesses, which came at a cost. They had a very large equity investment write-down, a very large commercial real estate write-down, which did drag on their bottom line. But there were some bright spots in this, Anna. Their equity underwriting fees came in better than expected. Their equity trading fees also came in better than expected, and actually better than Morgan Stanley, who is known as the equity trading house on the street. Overall trading generally was down 15%, and that's a lot better than what the president guided us for only a few weeks ago. Said it was going to be down 25%. So that, and then the optimism from the CEO in the earnings call led the stock to end in the green at the end of the day.
Okay, what a difference a quarter makes. This time last quarter, we've been talking a lot about regional banks and the difficulties they face. What's the story been so far? They haven't been grabbing the headlines in quite the same way, which probably is a good thing.
Probably a good thing. Yes, we've heard from some of the big ones, Western Alliance, Citizens, U.S. Bank Corp, and there is a theme of net interest margin compression. These regional banks are having to pay up more for their deposits, causing their cost of capital to increase. That's really eating into their margins when it comes to net interest income. They've also been shrinking their balance sheets, which is the theme we've seen all quarter. They're trying to divest some of their loans, trying to exit some of their businesses which aren't as profitable. And this is for two reasons. One of which, their cost of funding is increasing as they're paying for deposits. And secondly, they're just getting ready for this capital overhaul that's coming out of regulators, expected to be announced next week. And these capital increases, they're already setting aside money for that, trying to increase their capital ratios, their common tier 1 equity ratios, in order to get ready for this sweeping regulatory overhaul.
Valerie, thanks very much. We'll focus on regulation then for those smaller banks. Valerie Teitel with the latest on the banking sector. Just before the break, we were talking about soft commodities and the impact that the breakdown of that soft commodities deal between brokered by Turkey that Russia had with Ukraine through the United Nations, the breakdown of that deal, what that meant for the prices of various soft commodities. And just on that note, we're hearing now from Kernel Holdings, which is Ukraine's largest sunflower oil producer. The company is saying that it may take at least 12 months to restore its facilities at the Chornomorsk port in Ukraine after it was hit by a Russian attack on July the 19th. They're talking about infrastructure damage, but also a fire that partially destroyed 60,000 tons of grain. As a result of that, they're talking about the risk that global sunflower prices or oil prices go higher. We've seen soft commodity prices generally a lot higher, an 8% increase in wheat prices just yesterday, and that continues today with an increase of around 2% on the back of that changing stance from Russia and the breakdown of that deal. Russia talking about treating fleets in the area as potentially carrying weaponry, and we have seen some of the tragic results. This is the
Yes, and RTY going higher and higher. And we're still building orders here.
Break of structure oil.
Oil as well just messed up my trade, dropping lower.
RSI SMP.
Newsmakers hit market alerts. This is the Pulse with Francine Lockwell.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Pulse. Sometimes you might think there are nothing conversations that matter, and here's what's coming up on today's
RSI
program.
YN.
Yuan jumps after China ramps up support for the currency and eases capital curves. European stocks slide.
Order filled.
Nvidia's main chip maker, TSMC, warns sales for the full year will decline more than forecast. Plus, Tesla prices cuts drive down margins, while Netflix's dims forecast will bring you
Oh
mixed
shit, I
and
took the
free-market
wrong
news over the
contract.
coming hour. Now, first things first, let's take a look at the European markets map. Now, a lot of these equities, of course, are driven by what's happening in technology and chip makers in general. Now, we're holding on to some gains. The DAX against about 0.1%, the CAC 40 over in France at 0.3% higher, but really the main focus is what's happening in chips. Now, despite the fact that AI is still in boom, we saw TSMC, the Taiwanese chip semiconductor maker, saying they're expecting demand to
Order filled.
that's having a ripple effect. So ASML, one of the biggest users in today's trading session. Three charts very quickly to really wrap up and encapsulate the main stories today. First of all is one of yuan. This is after China actually stepped up its support for the managed currency, was a stronger than expected reference rate. They also changed some of the capital rules to allow more inflows. We love looking at China because if there's one thing that you have to get right in this market is actually trying to understand the Chinese economy and the impact and ripple this has to the rest of the world. Two other stories that we need to watch out for is earnings. Look, we've had many earnings calls, and today we had
Order filled.
two ones that were worth expecting. This is Netflix and, of course, Tesla. But overall, 82% of companies that have reported were better than expected. S&P 500, 12% of those companies have reported so far, and then next week is going to be a crazy week. We can actually look at the number of companies reporting. $75 billion worth of companies will come out and report, and most of those are in the U.S. So a lot of them will be in the S&P 500. So it's a very good week. Happy Thursday, everyone. I would suggest you have a nice and relaxing weekend to get you started for next Monday. Now, joining us to talk, of course, about earnings, to talk about China, to talk about inflation, is Invesco Global Head of Asset Allocation, Paul Jackson. Paul, I hope you have a restful weekend because it is going to be quite busy next week. When you look at earnings, they're not doing too badly, but then you look at chips, and you think actually we're in the midst of an AI boom, but we have to reprice everything. What do you worry about the most?
I think for me, the biggest concern is the slowdown in the global economy, which has a knock-on effect on profits in general. To be fair, profits have done a lot better than I would have imagined in the last year, but we are seeing that slowdown come through. And I think stock markets in particular are not reflecting what's happening in the global economy. So for me, the biggest worry for the second half is that there is a bit of an awakening in the stock market, and we get some correction coming through.
So let's look at the positives and the negatives. The positives is actually there does seem to be around the world, data that shows that we could be seeing peak inflation. That from now it's going to get on. So that's a positive. A negative, you put China.
No, actually, I look at China as being more of a positive, to tell you the truth. You've got a central bank that continues to ease, an economy that was effectively in recession last year and coming out of that. If you look at just something very simple like money supply growth, Chinese money supply growth is continuing to rise, whereas in the US it is actually negative. So I would expect better economic momentum from China, where inflation is actually very low. So I think China is at a very different stage in the cycle.
Yeah, and I've even heard of importing deflation from China. Does that make it easier or harder for central banks?
I would guess that makes it easier. And I think importing deflation, that sounds a bit of a strong term to me. It's maybe putting too much weighting on this. But at the end of the day, there are pockets of inflation in the world. Most of the world suffered inflation last year. China did not. And to the extent that it can dampen inflation elsewhere, then yes, that does help central banks.
But so when you say you worry about the economy, what do you worry about the most? So is it again the fact that central banks have to almost crush the economy to get inflation under control, or is it economics division?
I think it is that I think the central banks have just about done enough, especially in the States. But that perhaps they're going too far. But we've already seen that investment spending has weakened 4 quarters in a row in the US. The consumer is losing momentum. So it's just natural that the economy is going to slow down and perhaps go into recession. It's a part of the process. And yes, when central banks tighten, they do want economies to slow down.
That's what I was waiting for.
Because you came on a really big day. Congratulations! You hit the jackpot. We talked earlier when we talked companies. So Paul Jackson stays with us. Let's also go on to what we heard from Tesla. This is the EV maker, and shares falling in like trading yesterday. They're currently down significantly. I think if we have that free market, profitability shrank in the second quarter as prices cut. Of course, hit margins, and that stock pre-market down 3.6%. So joining us from Bloomberg's Ollie Cook-Williams said, Tesla earnings, Ollie, what do we need to care about? I mean, they just disappoint, really.
Yeah, I mean, they beat on some estimates, but the thing that everyone was watching was the margin, because this is a story of market share versus margin. So they've cut, prices on their top models by 30% since the end of last year. And the margin, that is what everyone was watching for in this earnings report. Gross margin in at 18.2%. That was a miss. Now, that's not a terrible, margin for a car maker. A lot of these EV legacy car makers that are making EVs are actually losing money on each single EV they sell. However, if you go back 4 or 5 quarters, that number was closer to 30%. So it's really eating in at the margin. And Elon Musk on the call said, hey, we will cut more if we need to. So the question is this working? In the first half of this year, the Model Y was the best-selling car in all of Europe. We got the June numbers yesterday. Tesla outsold Citroën and Fiat in their local market, and that's across the spectrum. So that's all positive. So in that way, it is working. However, the problem that Tesla now has is it's building up inventory. And, the investors gave up their verdict down 5%, but up 130%.
We had a dip on oil at 75.66 and we come up to 75.64.
Video from 4 years ago when they unveiled this bizarre-looking car.
Why?
Shatterproof glass, which of course shattered on stage publicly. However, they're beginning to actually put these out into the market. It looks like at the end of this year, but more probably next year. So you might start to see them on the road.
Yeah, I quite like them actually. I think if you're cool, you like them. If you're a bit more traditional, maybe you like to buy something else. Ollie, thanks so much, Oliver. I really appreciate Tesla. And I thought, if you look at Tesla, I don't know whether this is, a story of Elon Musk, which of course he's kind of, the man of the hour, good or bad, or whether this is one of EVs or one of, green the economy batteries. So how that fits into
I think Elon Musk has made a massive impact on the way that the auto industry is valued within the stock market. If you look today at the price that the stock market is paying per car sold, and I'm talking globally, not just one company, but the price the stock market is paying per car sold is 2, 3, maybe 4 times what it was pre-pandemic. And so for me, there is a big Elon Musk effect there in that there's a certain spin that is being put upon this, and we're paying a lot more for auto manufacturers than we used to do. And as far as I'm aware, they're more profitable than they used to be. So I'm a bit skeptical about the valuation of this sector in general.
That's fascinating. But in general, I know you see the biggest risk that stock markets have looked too far ahead, and you actually see value in Chinese stocks. First of all, how do you play China?
For me, it's a broad-based approach. I think with an economy that is improving with valuations the way that they are, I think you can be fairly broad in your approach. Usually for an economy that is recovering, you're going to focus more on the small and medium-sized companies, more on the value end of the spectrum. But even if you look at scale of technology sector, I think you can play or invest in technology stocks in China at a much better valuation than in the US, for example.
I mean, do they feel like they're in a bubble in the US? I know we're seeing a lot of pressure today on some of the chip makers. Are they priced to perfection?
I think in some segments, perhaps, and we've seen the AI craze that has taken off this year, and I think that is a massive bubble in the making. But credit conditions around the world are not such at the moment that you would expect to see a big bubble build up. But I think that is one specific area, perhaps, where there is. And the problem with chip makers is that it's one of the most cyclical industries. And if the global economy is weakening, they are going to suffer on the back of a bubble a couple of years ago when there were massive shortages. And this is a sector that goes from abundance to shortage, abundance, and the capital spending cycles are pretty abrupt. And I think they're suffering at the moment from overinvestment.
Paul, thanks so much. Chris Global, head of asset allocation, Paul Jackson, stays with us. We'll talk a lot more about technology and also this difference between, I guess, macroeconomic fundamentals and what the market is pricing in. Coming up, left buffering, Netflix slumping pre-market after projections for third quarter revenue fell short. We'll have more on that next, and this is Bloomberg.
Stop filled.
So welcome back to the Pulse on Netflix, slumping pre-market this morning after projections for third quarter revenue fell short of expectations. Now the earnings suggested a crackdown on password sharing. This is my favorite story. And the advertising tier are not yet delivering the growth that analysts had anticipated. But joining us now is again Paul Jackson. Thank you for staying, Paul. Global head of asset allocation at Invesco and Bloomberg's
Hold on.
team leader
Hi, DC.
tech stories. So, first, I
Hey,
love this, right?
am I too late? Did I miss all the fun?
Yeah, I'm not really happy with what NQ doing today for some
You're trying
reason.
to buy it, right?
I done it a few times and I took like a TP and whatever, but it was amazing.
That's all.
You saw my levels, yeah. I put the FIP few days ago. It was perfectly on a FIP
Yeah.
rejection on Sydney, and but I will leave it now. I am happy actually with the gold and the oil. But did you see? So RTY is flying. Yes, it's almost breaking the drop which they done. And only NQ is like, okay, what the fuck, we are here.
Okay.
They will go up. There, you saw there was so many buy signals. They will go up, but I need to be more patient or have a bigger stop loss.
Hmm.
So for now, I prefer to be more patient. And first time from ages, Ninja Trader crash on me. Don't know why the fuck. Okay. Still, there is no invalidation for the trade. It's quite far, so this is why I was just trying to do some other entries. But yeah, I will be patient now. I don't need to rush it. Now I just reinstalling NTA because the oil almost hit my TP, but I was one oil is even not a quarters, whatever, 1 point away. That was like, what the heck? Why you stop 1 point away and drop another like I had a TP 1 second at 75.66 and the oil go up to 75.64 and then drop
Hmm.
up to 75.32. That's like, what the heck? So I don't give a damn about NQ for now because I'm making a money on oil and gold. It's much easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just lost 400 on fuck you NQ. And you will go up now. Hmm. Should I open at least one contract? Where will be my stop for the new law? I can raise one contract. If what I want to do, I want to put one contract. But the one is so shitty to have one contract. Because when you got the two, you take the TP and then you leave them
Yes,
around.
yes,
Order
yes,
filled.
yes.
Okay, I'll leave it this way.
The Taiwanese semiconductor saying, look, profit's going to go down.
Right. So I think the economic recovery that everyone is expecting after the post-pandemic slump has been a lot slower than expected, including in China, and that's been an issue for these companies. Then there's also the geopolitical issues with China, which for TSMC is an issue for its manufacturing, although it has diversified its manufacturing.
It's true, but everything says short to me.
Oh yeah, no.
But not here, not here. Have to wait 2 more hours.
Yeah, it's in very cheap box. The POC dropped to here.
Yes.
It
It
was
was
so
much
high.
higher, yes,
Yeah,
around Sydney, yeah.
yeah. I was so surprised. Actually, yeah, not surprised. Even I was saying, yeah, probably POC drop here because the best bleeding orders. And here you go. You ask, you got it. Oil,
Eh,
can you just
But
break this high?
but 2 days ago this was an empty area on the profile.
Yeah, I saw it. So, but Sydney done a lot of build up there. They stuck there for quite a while.
You know, I don't want to call it, but if you want to go long,
I am in long.
okay. Again,
Mm,
if you want to
yeah,
go long at
risking another 400 bucks, which probably they will take it from me.
from
Because
820 to 808,
so
85.
I will need to wait for that.
That would be outside of the most cheap. No, inside of the most cheap zone. Yeah. You reinstalling Ninja 8?
I done it, I reinstalled it.
You have to do all the activations for all the indicators, or they're saved in
No,
the workspace?
they say in a workspace.
Oh, okay. That's good.
That was stupid enter, I shouldn't enter this. Okay. Fuck you, unqueue, I'm not.
Not playing anymore, but today we didn't even touch the previous day close. We went
Yeah.
just straight for it down. So
There is a huge
that was
gap
my
at the open.
yes, that was my initial plan, but we cannot seem to get the lift off.
Stupid thing is really I make a nice profits on the other things and I give them up with the MQ. So
Stop field.
yeah, kurwa mać. Pierdol się MQ. You can go up now. You took much stuff, so I will add to my gold.
To recover the losses from NQ.
Yeah. Okay, why you don't wanna? Yeah, the gold going really well. Of course, NQ took my stop. Wick it off 1 second.
Yes, but there's a lot of buying volume though.
They just wick it off, motherfuckers. Ooh, gold, you're making me very happy. And I was so smart that I opened 3 contracts, not 2 as usually.
Strangely enough, this 4-hour volatility is higher than the other. The one before it, but we're still crashing.
Order filled.
First TP on gold got done.
Much better, huh?
Oh yeah. You are not so not far from my TP and I'm rejecting it. Yeah, but the golf got the fly. That was very quick. I noticed that we are in very cheap. They start stalling and rebuilding. So I was like, okay. I was with 1 contract. I add 2. And just took first TP now when we break the structure from the drop. You know why I'm upset about the NQ? Because most of the time I will sell it. As a contrarian, I will just sell it. I will see, okay, we are testing 50% of opening range of Sydney or testing the new high, just sell it before the Frankfurt. And stupidly I was, just try to buy it. That's a nice idea.
Well, Frankfurt couldn't do much.
Frankfurt just goes straight down.
Yeah.
That's a nice rejection. But I really rather do not touch it. It cost me too much so far. I am green, but I'm not making the gains on the other contracts to give it up on NQ. The other thing is because we got so many buys, just actually buy 1 contract, and I will leave maybe 30 point stop loss now and actually do this. Yeah. I will kill
Well,
my.
yeah,
It, it,
30
it,
points
it
should
will
cover
cost
you.
it will cost me less than my stupid entries and give it 10 points for two
Order
contracts
filled.
all the time. TP, you saw where is my TP, so why two? It was one contract. They press it twice. 30. Okay, I will close one shortly. I will give you even 38, 39 points.
That is with minis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I don't want to touch it anymore, thank you.
Hmm.
It's on top step. So
On the evaluation, so you don't care if you fuck
no,
it up.
I care because I wanna finish it by Monday.
Hmm.
There is no fuck it up about it. There is no way. It's like yeah, oil and gold. They giving me amazing profits now. If you'll check what the oil done a few minutes ago, and I have on oil for contracts, so I really one contract is to be taken away, and they cannot make a new high. So maybe I will close it one of it.
I noticed recently you taking profits so much later.
On commodities.
On oil and gold and stuff.
Yeah, on commodities, not on definitely not on NQ. NQ it's too choppy these days. But I love what gold doing now. It's really like wanna go higher and higher. And really we are set up for a long like
Oh yeah, yeah.
36 and now just go up.
Oil, yes. At 75, they gave you
Yeah,
nice entry.
yeah.
At the previous day close, probably you got it even sooner.
No, I was at 75.20. I entered the oil.
Oh, okay.
But the gold I enter at the bottom 1981.
Hmm. Oil is flying.
Order filled.
Oh, this was TP from oil. Nice to hear it. Ooh, and go now. Yes. And Q, you can take these points, but leave me the other one. Even I'm not there to open a trade on Apex with NQ.
Hmm. I passed a couple of evaluations finally.
Okay.
That's good.
How you using them? With micros? And what's the size?
I'm not using. I got a 50K, I got a 25K. I didn't start trading yet.
Oh, okay.
But definitely micros only.
That is no fun on Evalak. Okay, but all 50 and 25K, yeah. I got you. 150K account, it's like you can use the minis.
Yes, 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 yes.
Especially on Apex when you've got the drawdown, so I wouldn't touch
Yeah, that
minis.
drawdown is very shitty.
This is why I like a lot of what's the name of it? I like a lot of Top Step. I forgot about how it was.
Because they have no drawdown.
On commodities, it's the best. You just open, as soon going your way, you've got your TPs, put it break even. If it come back, put it again, or just put it in some profit. At least you got some profit, and you don't care that you get to eat
Okay,
them.
okay.
And commodities, when it's going one way, it's going one way. It's not a shitty job like NQ. Okay, I will take off one more of gold because we start to ranging too much here.
Stop filled.
Yeah, and you can have this one, don't touch the other one. And this one, my TP, it's really high.
Now, the inquiry will look at whether misogyny, sexual harassment, and certain pain equality have been sufficiently addressed. Almost 20 women had recently come forward with allegations of harassment against hedge fund tycoon Kristen Odie, which he's denied. There were also multiple claims of sexual assault by employees of Britain's largest business lobby group, the CPI. What about the pay gap? Well, the sector is, of course, lagging.
So again, does weak me off my stop loss.
Women in financial services earn on average around 26% less
Mm.
than male counterparts.
I don't getting why they dropping so much. It's really
The share of female leaders across top financial firms increased just 2%.
oh gold, you're going higher. I shouldn't close it. That's okay.
Now, the statistics, of course,
Still got one more open.
progress in gender equality in the workplace. So let's discuss all of this, maybe find some of the solutions that some of the companies are trying to put in place. The Albright chief executive is Patsinas, Charles founder Ryan Jensen, and we're also joined by our very own London Bureau chief Ruth David. So thank you all for joining us. Ruth, you're the mastermind of a lot of the stories, investigation that really Bloomberg puts forward on these very important topics. You need to break it down. So, of course, sexual harassment is not the same as gender pay. But if you look at some of the metrics that we cover, certainly on a weekly basis, is there anywhere where women have been leading, where they've been doing better because of society, understands the need for diversity?
Okay, I got a 97. So this is previous 4 hour, which is a nice TP area. Oh, it's 87, sorry. And I got okay, we'll see.
To change behavior and whether there are enough institutional barriers in place to ensure that men at the top that
yeah. So
there are checks and
yeah, I'm at the bottom of the week. If my stop loss would be 1 point bigger, I will survive that.
I would love to hear your views on this because some top male executives in the finance industry say question of discriminatory pay, it's a question of there being far fewer women in the industry. And is that true? But is it also true that women are being discriminated against?
Yeah, and one of the questions, of course, that we've been trying to, to work on is if you're, a female and you're rare and far between, maybe you should get paid more if there's a competition to attract you in some of the top banks. So, Vic, when you look at Albright, you do some amazing work trying to bring women together. And it really starts from a very simple philosophy that men have had networking for a long time to get to know each other, you help each other out, and you're trying to recreate this for women. When you have your membership for Albright, what do they come to you with? What do they need actually in terms of support?
Absolutely. So Albright is about supporting.
Yeah, you are quite busy now.
Hmm?
You are quite busy now.
Why?
It's like not coming for morning sessions.
Just scheduling is shit. Everybody is using my time.
Uh-huh. Now trading US, what's happening with my PC today?
38% of women are actively looking for new roles. If you think about that,
Probably just telling me to close everything, walk away.
20,000 employees, 33% women. That is 2,500 women actively looking.
But is that good or bad? Does that mean that they want to create progression, or is it because they're unhappy?
Well, they're not staying long enough. So only 10% are staying for longer than 5 years. So they're not progressing in the organization.
Easily trading commodities in the morning. It's a pleasure this evening. Much better than having a fight with NQ.
John, you really deeply believe about this. You basically founded Child's Farm, and you basically had to go through the difficult things of finding funding, of getting support. What did you find as you grew Child's Farm into something quite big and fairly recognizable? What was the hardest stage as a female entrepreneur?
Break of structure. Well, I have to say, look, I started
Whoa!
nearly 20 years ago now,
Thank
and
you.
it really disturbs me that we're still having the same conversations that we had nearly 20 years ago right now. But for me, I'm quite a punchy individual, but even so, I had to jump through, I would say, extraordinary hoops to get the attention of men. I mean, not forgetting as well, I did a baby and child product, so that's not a serious product, is it? Regardless of what it was, I was running a business, and I was running a business that was really hugely successful and grew incredibly quickly. But I can say, now that, of my 26 shareholders, many of them never actually asked me a question. They would ask my business partner a question, and I called him my business partner because he was the second largest shareholder, and he did a huge amount to help me with the business. But whenever there was a question when it came to the Articles of Association or growth or a relationship with a retailer, it never came to me, it always came to Andrew. And we used to laugh about it. But, and we would talk about behind the scenes and sort of say,
Okay, I'm gonna
is
prove it
it,
again.
is
So
this? Or he would say
a
to
long
me,
time it didn't pop up.
that's a
1 minute.
completely
There will be a pullback
I've been described as being emotional,
from the very cheap zone.
but you have to be pretty punchy to cut through the the, 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 the noise when it comes to starting up a new business. But let's not forget, as a woman, even now, this is grown. According to the Rose Review, we are getting less than 2% of investment capital
Okay, I
today
need to
in the
restart
UK,
PC again.
which
What
is
the fuck?
miles behind our European counterparts
Sorry
and
for
those in
referring
the
this, but
US,
it's
because
annoying
we are
today.
still not taken
Okay.
seriously as businesswomen.
But Joanna, what I don't understand is that some of the rules that certainly we walk in with have changed over the last
Lucky I'm in the Trader Koltun oil open.
there are many more females. When you speak to bank chief executives, they say, look, we want to support more women. So is it the greenwashing of female inequality, or is it just that we're progressing at a glacial pace?
I think it's a bit of both, actually, and I think it's a really good summary, Francine, because what I'm seeing is we're still overwhelmed by what's that wonderful
Mm-mm.
expression, male, pale, and sick.
Order filled.
Millions of people. Let's just
Okay.
think for
If
a second.
I
65%
send
of
you a video, you're gonna laugh.
shopping money, if you like, for want of a better
Okay.
word, is actually
About.
women, and yet
These
the
guys, you know
businesses
how
have
just
to run by men.
one
And
week
until
ago,
we can have boards or senior
around we
leaderships
were
which are representative of the
um
consumer, you can't say to us,
thinking
we're
we
saying to you,
were
until you
doing
have
that trend lines on RSI and
going to deliver to them.
Yeah.
And because
how to right?
economics is based on GDP, we're expecting growth in economic
Okay.
Yeah.
revenue. So we're putting
Well,
secular
somebody is
These
alright
policies
here.
guys,
to deliver when we don't
these
have the scale.
eyes is like
Or
they
add
were
women into the mix, and you're getting a much more diverse range.
listening to us.
Otherwise, it could be somebody who is
They just
not
released
happy
an
about
indicator
what
that
could be
does
coming up.
just that and
But
alerts you.
maybe
I
we're
mean,
not
not,
getting
I
something
don't think
new
they have
or
alerts,
sentiment
but
that
it
reflects what we're
does
selling to and
exactly
what we
that.
are. Because
They just,
Okay.
if you want to
they just
win
launched
tomorrow,
it. I
we
send you
still
the
need to
YouTube
stop
link.
stuck in this arena. It's
Okay.
kind of like
Trend
somebody
line
asking you
break
whether you're the right
indicator.
board. I'm a great believer it has to be the best person for the job,
And who
regardless
is
of
it?
what gender they are.
This is the one that you sent
Uh,
me earlier, I think
You
so.
also have to embrace just
no,
how
I just watched it today.
diversity of your customer. And if you don't, I'm not sure how you're going to get this growth.
And that's what I
First
understand.
ever. It's not the first ever because we done it few weeks ago.
It's
You just mentioned
Yeah, it's the same.
it's not first ever at all.
there's a lot of that going on with the markets that we invest in.
Uh,
Those are
yeah,
happening in
that's
the
fun.
tech sector that's doing well.
Yes, and it's like what's more funny is that it's like $900.
Should be impacted by
Okay.
layoffs, which is crazy.
Okay, people pissed off. So you can see how
Yeah.
easy you can do most probably of indicators if you just want to spend some time and have some idea how to use basic tree
Yes.
tools.
Yes. Yes. And you can do it freely with Ninja Trader just tools. I mean, that is so crazy.
Investing in women, investing in diversity is not a nice to have. I mean, it's very simple. If you want, every business wants to drive growth. That growth comes from innovation. Innovation comes from diversity of gender, generations, diversity of thought. There is still 80% of employers that pay men more than women. And that has to change. So we need to see more action and less talk. And that's what we're trying to do at Albright with the Albright Alliance.
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the Albright Alliance. The Albright Chief Executive of Pexinas, their child farm founder Jeremy Linson, and a very young leader who's been all stay with us. Coming up, why works is not working for many women. The discussion on gender, equality, and diversity continues when we work.
For some reason, MQ is not showing me like when I choosing 6. Okay, try 7. In one window, 30-second window is not showing the indicator. I don't know why. Today really fighting with me. I clean the history data, I remove the cookies. Yeah, this is the trade which, as Adam was saying, I saw the buy, I saw like plenty of buy signals. I will give you almost 40 points stop loss, but I want the price to go 16,100. Oh la la, did you go to the shop?
The bakery there, that's in the way. Really nice
Amazing.
bakery.
Thank you.
I got a sausage roll.
Okay, I'll try that. Nice. Yes?
Sorry, this is for you.
Oh, thank you. Done.
Economics, finance, politics. This is Bloomberg UK and Fred Sinatra here in London. Now let's continue our discussion on
I think so. This year we are good to go now. I don't want to add the
Yes.
contracts yet,
Yes, but
but
my ninja will not connect.
yeah, I struggle with my one. I just want the fight with my one, but at least I was able to open the contracts on Apex. It showed me certain things that we should go this time.
companies to just invest more in women?
Correct. So the alliance is really to bring together a collective of companies who are committed to making change in the workplace and to make work for all.
Also,
We
the
are
small
over
ATR is not helping us.
180,000 employees, 133,000 women. So there's some really innovative titans in business that are joined our mission. And what we do is start
Finally.
with a data diagnostic to understand what's happening in the workplace. We take the data from the X-ray that we do, and then we create a framework and a blueprint
to drive success with different data touch points throughout the year, and then we've tried across 5 pillars. And at the end of the year, have they achieved the criteria that we
Come
set
on.
when they get certified as
As soon as I open the trade, you're going down.
And the Parker review, of course, is now changing what its targets look like, right?
So let me see here.
From ethnic backgrounds, minority people on boards to show diversity. The billion-dollar question is, how much is having these women on boards actually making a difference to gender diversity across the organization? And while companies in the UK have voluntarily met a lot of these targets,
Whoa!
the progress that we are seeing in terms of when you go
How
across
wrong
the management level,
I
so
was.
even if you have a female CEO, the next level down, how many women do you have in leadership roles? And I think that is a question that we're all struggling with, and it's not just a UK issue. And we haven't even got to the very thorny topic of maternity leave yet, which the UK arguably does better than some other countries. But then, do you get the same job when you go back? Is your promotion guaranteed after a year? Do you get your bonuses? And in finance, those are the burning questions.
Yeah, and this is a difficult question to answer, right? Because I don't know whether you have survey or research on this. Is that if you have a female CEO, it doesn't necessarily translate if she doesn't have the power to change the organization into female talent retention or hiring.
And that's where there are different checkpoints throughout the year when you're doing your annual reviews, when you're recruiting, removing the bias from recruitment. So it's not just about female, but it's that intersectionality of different ethnic minorities as well. So it's removing
No.
those biases throughout the recruitment process.
26, 21.
Making sure that
Okay.
use the opportunity during annual reviews to get to gender pay parity. If we close the gender pay gap in the UK, we'll be adding 150 billion pounds into the economy. Right? It's a simple math equation.
Janet, you're also an amazing entrepreneur because you successfully built the company, and then now you're trying to mentor younger female entrepreneurs to basically have the success story that you've had. Have the questions they ask you changed over the years? And again, if you're in a managerial position in a large company, what does it? If you don't have the power to change into more diversity, like what's the right way of dealing with that?
I think what I see is definitely women that need some support.
There are so many buyers.
I was talking to one woman the other day who
94 buyers, 17 sellers. And why the price dropped so much?
by this man in the board position, and I coached her through how to address that. And this was, a position of 13% of her business, and somebody, telling her how to run her business, how she was getting everything
Okay,
wrong.
the shitty thing for NQ is that RTY and ES start dropping.
Men are very good at networking, and this is my organization.
Oh, don't tell me that.
By women, built, set up by someone else. Hashimi are so brilliant about bringing.
But maybe now NQ will go up because they was going up all the time and NQ was going down.
That confidence when they go into a situation to really help grow. And typically, I think what I see is female.
For me, it's go at least to the chip box.
Heavy when it comes to their employees.
Ah, haha.
Depends on the product that they're doing. I think naturally what I see
That is your first TP?
is there is this natural diverse workforce.
Ah, but we have to pass the
View up.
POC first.
Yeah, view up.
POC and view up.
Okay,
That is
view up
very.
is at the bottom of chip box.
That is very ambitious.
I can see why I entered too early. I should wait it. And then I will be from the bottom, at least having my first TP done. On Apex.
When I speak to leaders about it, we're just not investing in women. We don't want to be seen to just be doing something for women.
Yeah, I close the gold in the right place. They start to struggle too much with the very small candles, and now it's a rejection. So that's good. We drop the feed there. That was a top.
And my first observation is that he's trying to recruit females, and it's actually quite difficult to find skilled females, possibly also because of COVID. So we'll get onto that in just a second. Albright, should we
That was a top. This is the bottom, exactly golden zone, and I am late for that short. I don't want to touch it now. Ah, I will touch it with small entry. The TP is a new low for the gold.
I am also one mini long,
Nice.
but it's a mini, so it's a one in, one out. Final TP is at session view up 44 for 15 points around if I can get it. There's still a lot of
44.
red. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of red. 200 still red, but we are above it at least. Surge just started, just turned green. Luckily I entered before, so that's
Order filled.
good. And we will see. We're staying in this area, but we're not building a lot of volume. Which is good, because if they want to go lower, they have to go higher to get more people.
Mm.
And the way we're moving, there's not enough power to... There's no more sellers, like you said on the profile also.
Got nicely above 200, so there should be something from it.
We'll see. Either I'm gonna get 300 or I'm gonna lose 100.
You've lived through this, you've had to do it. What would have made your life easier? Is it childcare? Is it actually, being recruited differently?
Ah, come on.
I think for me, look, I was a single mum when I was running my business, and childcare to me was
ATR is going lower.
and let's think about these trips that we have to do, international trips. When did we ever get paid for those
And
additional
volume is still very low, so we should be slowly drifting up.
as well? But this whole part of the role of women within the family, and this is not stigmatizing women, it is just naturally we're extremely good
I
as
did
a
say
parent, not only
up
for our
though.
children, but also as a parent. And I'm in that position right now where I have a mother with dementia, I have two teenage children.
You say one thing, they do the other.
Everyone needs me, and I still have to do a job. And
Surge turned red. Thank you very much.
if we really want to attract women into the workplace,
On what time are you using the surge? Because my one is still not there.
we need to understand these unique circumstances that women have beyond
Hmm.
just working in an office.
And I would say two other things to that.
Now they should go up this year.
When we are recruiting, one of the top questions we get from working parents, majority of whom are women, is what are your work from home policies? Finance companies
It's
are not
like
back on
we
all of
really
that
try
right
to
now.
go to the
How do
bull's
you get
side,
women
and
to be there with you? Yeah,
I
I think
need
there
to
are two
Complete the targets.
Came also from our surveys, and a lot of women don't progress even if they do a lot of the feel-good mental support and stuff in workplaces.
Yes, and that's about shifting the mind from it being a cost to a value creation. So women disproportionately do a lot of that unpaid work in the workplace as well, and that adds to their burden. And what we've seen from our survey is that women are stepping down because of those unrealistic expectations. Not only do they have caring responsibilities at home, they do more in the workplace. But as a solution, as you just said, it is around companies making sure they adopt
Volume. Whoa, man.
Yeah, that's very Python
Kidding me.
I was really pleased to read that Amazon is offering sabbatical to moms who need to take the summer off to look after their children. I mean, that works, right?
getting what they doing and why they doing this.
Hard, P&L measurable thing that then it means that females that do that can also progress further.
But that's and same for diversity, right? Because you want more people that even if they look and sound different, can tell your story.
Only one thing which I can tell you for now, they want to scare off the people.
Should also be tied to how much diversity there is in the workforce.
I 100% agree. And it's that point you said about
They're not
P&L.
making new law.
We need to look at measurement in a different way.
We're staying above 200, but barely.
Traditional P&L, which doesn't reflect the workplace of today.
All right, thank you all for joining us. Albright, Chief Executive
Below
focusing on
36.
child farming, family gatherings, and London.
This will be really like I should.
Of course, looking at
Fix is going up slightly. I should stay away and come back to New York.
We've got next with Jack in New York, Danny Berger here in London, and this is Bloomberg.
Ooh, we're going for new low.
New surge wants to start. New bearish surge.
I can see something popping out. That looks so fun.
Stupid bears. Just making people's lives difficult.
I am bear by the blood. I just noticed most of my trades are bearish. I like to short the market. This was like doing when I don't have too much things to do and checking about some new stuff, whatever. Then yeah, checking the setups and some other silly stuff. Can we put a nicely fib on? There is no fib to go up because there is one which I done and we are below the golden zone.
Okay,
I
so
can do
bearish
on
volume was too much, so that's why we're going up, or we're tired. Which one is it? I was back in profit, I could close it, and now
41. Okay. 50 it's there percent. I'm staying.
yes, your stop is beyond the low, so it's good for you. I only gave it 5 points, so I'm not risking more with 1 minute.
If I will do that way much earlier, I will lose definitely less money than trying to please NQ with smaller stop loss.
Yes, and now they pulled the session view up even lower, so I cannot get 15 points, you stupid people.
For me, the first area of acceptance, it will be 41.5. If we can cross and stay above.
Yeah. RSI is exactly in the middle for the last 30 minutes.
Okay, commodities got the new boxes, and my short on my gold don't look anymore so sexy. Because we are in the middle between the cheap and expensive. So actually, you can go much cheaper, but you can go much more expensive too.
It's 10 a.m. in London, 5 a.m. in New York, 5 p.m. in Hong Kong. Our top stories today.
Yeah, I can do that
Tesla
much.
thinks as Elon Musk warns of
The reward is much bigger than the
well, Netflix also slumped on a disappointing revenue
risk.
forecast. The yuan rally into PBOC
Ah, come on.
with officials considering mortgage easing in
No
China's
search,
biggest
it was
cities.
try to pop in
And
and
prices
didn't pop in.
rise further after their biggest surge in a decade. Russia makes threats against ships sailing to
Check the. Did you check the RSI on 180? It's like really they fighting to go bullish and they are below bearish one. And I had the same situation. Actually, that would be a
Out.
nice screenshot to send it to you.
absolutely, and I have the rest of the week to do that just with you. Let's take a look here at the markets first, Danny, before we get into a big show. Looking in to some of the negative data we're seeing here, we have S&P futures
Okay,
down
so we need to wait for RSI to be oversold. If this is the same setup which happened in the morning,
as well as Tesla and Netflix dragging those futures down just a little bit here. We also have, I want to pay attention to the U.S. Yen cross, the dollar yen
okay,
cross
this
here,
was
scaling
that,
towards the
and
140
this is what
level.
we're
And
doing
it's a
now.
interesting moment here after a bit of strength here. We are
There
starting to
was
again
more
see
bears,
the
okay,
cross.
but
I
you
want
can
to
see
point to one price
bulls
that you're talking about as
stepping
well, because
in.
we're seeing even
There
more
was
strength
like
in the
that,
wheat. There are a lot
and
of
that's the
inflationary concerns
difference.
here to see
Actually,
whether
I'm happy
Russia will
this
start
year
a
with the
warning
long.
sign over ships in the Black Sea related to the
I
grain
will send you
prices.
something
As you
now.
said, it was the biggest surge in a decade, and we're seeing that extension here today, Danny. Yeah, and to be
Maybe
clear,
I need
it's not
to
just wheat. We are
wait
looking
a
at
bit
commodities
as I got a
rebounding
bigger stop
today
loss
in
that yeah,
general,
that's
not just on
okay.
that Russia story, but on China's support. You know, you put it perfectly. It's the inflation fear that this brings. So a couple of things happening in the Asia session. The strongest fix
We
for
had the
the
same thing in the morning at at Frankfurt.
cross-border flow to promote that. We also
Actually, it
have
was
officials
Frankfurt. Yeah, it
considering
was London
making things
Open.
more easy to obtain a mortgage
Yeah.
if you're in the
You see
UK.
where was RSI?
That's the report about them supporting
Yes,
It was
yes.
doing the same. I remember seeing the
Let's
same
see.
line all the time, but we saw
Hmm.
the increase in a bearish volume. Now RSI doing the same thing, but we see decrease in bearish volume.
Mm-hmm.
by 0.8 of 1%. But here's the rub. Stocks in China did not rally off of the back of this. The CSI ended the session lower. Perhaps there's some skepticism as to whether this is just a band-aid or something that fundamentally drives the picture. The other bad thing for stocks in the Asia trade was TSMC earnings. We're going to get into that with our reporter in just a bit, but that also translated into issues for the Europe session. Let me show you what's happening here in Europe, because technology stocks are dragging down the overall index, down nearly 2%, the worst performing sector. It's all the chip stocks. It's everything that might move on the fear that TSMC is warning their cut is going to mean bad news for Europe's chip sector too. Meanwhile, another day of weakness for sterling after that blowout lower than expected number, CPI number yesterday. But 2-year yields, those yields creep ever so high, but I mean barely small. They're really holding on to that rally that we saw yesterday. But again, as we say, a lot can change today considering all of the earnings news. Absolutely some rallies today and some pickups. We're going to talk about one of those rallies, that is Tesla, now lower in pre-market trading as the car maker warns of more hits to come. The already shrinking profit margin. CEO Elon Musk saying
That's
sacrifices will
the
help future
not
growth.
nice.
I think it does make sense to sacrifice
Nope.
margins in favor of making more vehicles
But
because
now we are
we don't know
oversold.
much does the future if they will have a dramatic valuation increase. I think the Tesla fleet value increase to the point was going to
But now
outweigh
if we go to the session view up,
by regulators.
I will have 20
Will
points
be the single biggest step change
Hmm.
in asset value maybe in history.
of reward.
Now, for more on Tesla, Bloomberg's Oliver Crook joins us now. Oliver, what do we care about when we look at the Tesla earnings today?
Hey, Shonali, this is really coming down to two things. That is market share and margin. That war between these two. That war is being waged in price cuts for Tesla, down some 30% on some of their models from the end of last year. And we looked at that's the only thing people really cared about looking at these numbers, the profit margin. Gross profit margin came in at 18.2%. That was a miss despite beats across the other metrics. And really, if you look back 4 or 5 quarters, that is down from
Very
something
quick
close to
rejection.
30%. And Elon
Did
Musk
you enter
last
that
night
long?
said, you know what, he's willing to burn that.
No, not
The
yet.
attitude towards the margin is, if you've got them, smoke them. The question is it
I didn't
worth it?
re-enter
We did
yet.
466,000 cars in the second quarter. That was a record. In Europe, for example, the Model Y was the single best-selling model in all of Europe. Yesterday, we got June data out. Tesla outsold Nissan, it outsold Volvo, it outsold Citroën and Fiat. These are all local players that it's beating in its own market. There are some clouds on the outlook, however, though they do have kind of demand that's there, but it's not where it used to be, and they're managing to work through it. And so you're seeing some of their inventories come up. That's 5 consecutive quarters, so that's not an issue really going forward.
I mean, look, it might have been an ugly post-market session for them, Oliver, but I just pulled up the one-year chart of Tesla. Am I looking at this right? That they rallied 130% so far this year?
Yeah, so listen, we lost what at 1.4%, now 2.5%.
Tesla 140% this year.
But who cares? If you own Tesla at the beginning of this year, you made 130%. So yeah,
130, yeah. Why not?
There are a couple other milestones that we should watch with interest. For example, Ford and GM adopting the Tesla standard.
They don't look good to NQ because the new 4-hour, if you click like that, there won't be any new heights to be made.
The final point, the Cybertruck. There are a lot of memorable moments in Tesla history. However, the one 4 years ago where they demonstrate the shatterproof glass that
In an hour, if we won't go up to the previous 4-hour close, which won't happen.
Now we got the first one rolling off the assembly line in Texas. We haven't seen them on the streets yet. But again, this is kind of Elon
The
Musk
forecaster won't look
bringing
too
something
good.
new hardware to market that, it'll be very strange to see these on the roads. Probably not till the end of this year, realistically, at the end of next year, but still exciting.
Unemployment claims today.
That image of the thing shattering.
Yeah, RSI is already at the 50. Let's see.
The other big earnings to sort through is Netflix. Those shares slumped in the pre-market after the streaming giant gave a disappointing revenue forecast. Despite beating expectations,
As earlier on, when it was trending down, we were staying all the time below the 200. Now, from like last hour, they fighting. They try to stay above 200.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll going for the new high. I don't know why gold. What it's doing should go lower. And
Bloomberg's Olivia Solin joins us now for more on this. Olivia, what do you make of the price action this morning? Because they did add a significantly higher amount of subscribers than was expected.
Absolutely, yeah. They had this huge subscriber
I
increase,
remove
6
one of my
million compared
TPs.
to what I was expected to be about 2 million in the last quarter. But as you say,
Why
they've
have
had
joined
this
the
slower than
TPs?
expected ability to generate more revenue from this strategy, which is involved cutting down on password sharing and also introducing this ad-funded tier.
Olivia, how do you expect the Hollywood strikes to affect the business?
Right, well, the Hollywood strikes, it's a bit of a mixed bag for Netflix. On one hand, it's affecting some of the production of some of their hit shows, like Stranger Things, completely shut down. But on the other hand, it's cut production costs for the company, so they're projecting, much reduced costs this year. Netflix will obviously say that they have this very deep back catalogue of movies and shows, and they also produce quite a lot of content internationally, so they think that's going to mitigate the impact of the strikes.
All right, Olivia, thank you very much for that update. That is Olivia Solin from our Bloomberg Tech team. Elsewhere in tech news, chipmaker TSMC posted a smaller than expected profit decline after the global AI development boom outweighs a persistent slump in smartphone demand. But Asia's most valuable company says the full year sales will fall by 10% in dollar terms. More on this, let's bring in Tim Colban from our Bloomberg opinion team. Tim, what is it?
I haven't done anything. Why this thing doing something for me which I'm not doing? That's really danger.
Previously, they said low single digits, like 3 to 5%.
AI is definitely giving them a boost, but
I even cannot switch off the
AI, which is high performance computing,
Ninja Trader.
is kind of soft right now. So for the whole year, smartphones are the big problem, but AI is just not enough to fill
Could I
that
get
gap.
some
The other
virus?
thing is that if we look at the numbers, TSMC's inventory has risen. The company's now sitting on $7.6 billion.
Just go to Task Manager and close it manually.
I restarting the PC,
Ah,
but
okay.
I cannot do simple commands, and the PC just pressing whatever I want to press for me.
Oh, that's not good.
And now actually the gold is in amazing short, and it should hit my first TP shortly, and it's not because I by mistake I switch off the TPs.
Hmm.
And I couldn't put them on.
The high inventories and the worse than expected outlook for this year is weighing not just on TSMC, but on really a broader sector of the economy, of course, in Europe and in the United States.
I will need to reinstall everything. I hate doing that.
Takes whole day.
It's like the worst waste of the time. What's the good antivirus software? What do you think on Windows?
I'm not using anything.
I'm doing the same. It looks like I need to do something.
No, but my Ninja is in on a virtual machine, which I'm using only.
Okay.
I don't even have Internet Explorer. Nothing.
Okay, that's good.
The computer can crash and burn, can do whatever it wants. As long as I have my virtual machine backup, I just reinstall Windows, put the virtual machine back on, and I'm ready to go.
Connection.
Manufacturing equipment. So that's a real problem for the US. It really does reflect badly on the United States economy.
Positions.
For all of the concern about PCs and mobile phone demand, it is remarkable to look at Apple hit record high after record high, this time on their development of an AI ChatGPT-like rival. How far along does it seem like they are here? Is that rally off the back of it justified, you think?
Well, I mean, I don't call stocks, but I'd say this.
Okay,
Basically,
I've
Apple has
done
been
it.
out of the game when it comes to generative AI.
Why not showing the TPs?
And they're actually quite good at an AI that is used to look at photos and edit photos and search for photos on your phone. But they've stayed away from generative AI for a few reasons, one of which is privacy concerns. As you know, programs like ChatGPT, they hoover up really a lot of data, and in fact, we don't even know where that data comes from. That's part of the problem. Apple is, really big on privacy, and so what they've done, according to exclusive reporting from Mark Gurman, is they've developed something internally, which is somewhat of an internal replication by Apple of things like Bard and ChatGPT. It's not designed at this stage to be used for consumer applications.
Okay, I need to close the position because it's too dangerous to hold them.
Even if internally,
Yeah.
and they're treading very, very carefully and cautiously into that realm. So the fact that investors are seeing that they are not asleep at the wheel, perhaps they are interested and they are involved, is certainly upside for the company and for the stock.
Tim, thank you very much. That's Bloomberg Opinions, Tim Koltun in Taipei. And coming up on the program, the price of wheat keeps on rising after posting its biggest daily surge in a decade. We'll get more on that
It was such a nice entry.
Breaking lines over the euro area economy. Eurostat has revised their first quarter euro area GDP statistics to zero. It was at a negative 0.1%. So Europe dodges a recession in the winter. We're going to catch up with Gordon Shannon of 24 Asset Management on his take on Europe, European bonds, and the Fed. Also, coming up later in the show, we're going to talk about the next big risk. It premieres tonight. It features Buzz Weinstein and David Rubenstein. We've got a sneak peek of Shanali's conversations there.
The next time there's a serious sell-off, which is not just a 3-week affair, there are a number of aspects from the behavioral to also that the Fed is not your friend and in fact will not be able to come to the rescue of the market in the same way because of what's going on now.
Thank you. Show some strength. Do something.
Thank you today. He's sleeping and falling out of the bed slowly.
Yes, even was so nice to try today. Have a run up, run down.
We're just playing with people. After each time we get a bigger green candle, there's a red candle.
Yeah. I'm going to put up this again. I'll just, it's 10 o'clock, I'll switch off the YouTube.